Hello students, it's Sam Bennett, your guide to critical thinking, and this is another short video on a key concept. In this video I'll be discussing valid deductive arguments. So some deductive arguments are valid, some are invalid. In this video I'll teach you how to tell if a deductive argument is valid rather than invalid. I'll show you what to look for when you're trying to figure out if it's valid. By the way, being valid is a good thing, so just remember that. It's good for a deductive argument to be valid. All right, let's get into it. Example of a valid deductive argument. All right, so let's look at this one. Sam Bennett plays hockey every weekend, therefore Sam Bennett plays a sport every week. All right, so this is a valid deductive argument. And my question for you is, can you guess why it is valid rather than invalid? Pause the video and take a guess. Why is this argument valid? All right, so it's valid, but not because it's true. It's actually totally false. I've never played hockey, and I do not play a sport every weekend, right? So that first premise, Sam Bennett plays hockey every weekend, that's false. The conclusion, Sam Bennett plays a sport every week, is also false. So everything in this argument is false, but it is still valid. So that's your question. How is it still valid if everything in it is false? What makes it valid? Okay, so here's how you can tell that it's valid, okay? So what you will need to do is you first separate the premise from the conclusion. So the premise is in yellow, conclusion is in blue. You separate them, and then what you do is you accept the premise, and then you ask yourself if the conclusion is guaranteed, okay? So when you accept the premise that I play hockey every weekend, well, guess what? It's guaranteed that I play a sport every weekend. That's why it's valid. We'll do more, don't worry. Here's another one. Everyone born in Australia has killed an alligator with their hands. Therefore, most Australians have killed an animal. So this is a valid argument, and now I want you to guess. Take a guess. Why is this argument valid? So it's not about it being true. Actually, everything in this argument is false, okay? So everyone born in Australia has definitely not killed an alligator with their hands. That's super false. It's also false that most Australians have killed an animal, okay? So none of it's true, but it's still valid. How is that possible? Well, this is how it's possible. This is what you're going to do. You separate the premise or the premises from the conclusion. So the premise here is in yellow, conclusion is in blue. All right. And what you notice is that when you accept the premise, the conclusion is guaranteed, right? If everyone born in Australia has killed an alligator, well, guess what? Most Australians have killed an animal. That's guaranteed once you accept the premise. So that's why it's valid. All right, so basically there's this four-step procedure for figuring out if something's valid, all right? Here's the procedure. First, you divide the premise from the conclusion, or the premises. You accept all the premises, accept all of them, and then see if the conclusion is guaranteed. All right, if the conclusion is guaranteed, guess what? It's valid. And that's how you figure out if something's valid. All right, now, it's very important to execute the procedure, right? You have to be able to tell what the conclusion is and what the premises are, okay? So how do you figure that out? So let's look at this example argument. Bob doesn't eat food, therefore Bob doesn't eat salmon, all right? So to figure out if it's valid, you need to separate the premise from the conclusion. Now, how do you find the conclusion? Well, you need to look for a conclusion indicator, all right? So in this example, the conclusion, Bob doesn't eat salmon, is preceded by therefore. Therefore is a conclusion indicator. Here's a bunch of other conclusion indicators. I recommend pause the video and write all these conclusion indicators down and learn them, okay? Because they will help you find the conclusion. All right, so once we look at this article, we're going to analyze this argument now. Once we separate the premise from the conclusion, we ask ourselves, if we accept the premise, if we accept that Bob doesn't eat food, is it guaranteed that he doesn't eat salmon? Yes, it is. It is guaranteed that he doesn't eat salmon. So this argument is valid. All right, let's do another valid argument, right? No American was born in Texas. Dallas is where JFK was assassinated. Therefore, no American was born where JFK was assassinated. This argument is valid. Can you guess why? It's not because it's true. Not because it's true. Okay. This argument has the premise: no American was born in Texas. That's super false. That is super false. Okay, so this is still valid though. So you have to think about, why is it still valid? The reason why is that when you separate the premises from the conclusion and you accept the premises, you realize that the conclusion is guaranteed. That's why it's valid. Again, here's the 4-step procedure. If you want to look at it in this beautiful slide, pause and, soak it in. Soak in the 4-step procedure for figuring out if something's valid. All right, here's another valid deductive argument. All right, so all licensed nurses have completed a nursing education program. Mary O'Neill Mundinger is a licensed nurse. Therefore, Mary O'Neill Mundinger has completed a nursing education program. All right. So notice, in this case, actually, all the premises are true, and the conclusion is true as well. But that's not why it's valid. It is valid, but that's not why. The truth really has nothing to do with why it's valid. Okay. It's valid because if you accept the premises, the conclusion is guaranteed. That's why it's valid. All right. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful to you.